Good morning, class. Imagine your mother is suffering from inoperable terminal brain cancer. Then imagine her wishes to choose death with dignity versus a painful and prolonged end are confronted with an enormous challenge even to obtain life-ending drugs. Oregon, Vermont, Washington, Montana, and New Mexico are the only 5 states that allow medically assisted suicide. For the rest of the country, assisted suicide is considered a crime. Let's explore the problem and look at the solution, which would be physician-assisted suicide that is legal in all states. Let's examine the problem first. Why is assisted suicide considered a crime for the majority of the country? In the article, Assisted Suicide Should Be Legal by Rafia Zakaria, it states the following. On October 12th, Brittany Maynard, who is 29, suffers from inoperable terminal brain cancer. She announces plans to voluntarily end her life on November 1st. Maynard's diagnosis means she will eventually lose all cognitive capabilities. Maynard's decision has been met with intense opposition from disability rights advocates and religious conservatives. Disability rights advocates and religious conservatives express that prognoses of terminal illness are often wrong, and the disabled or terminally ill may be encouraged to choose assisted suicide for cost reasons. Marilyn Golden, a senior policy analyst at the Disability Rights Education and Defense Fund, states that dying from illness is not necessarily painful because of palliative sedation. Although denying mentally capable individuals the right to end their lives in a peaceful manner is a denial of their individual rights to self-determination and freedom of choice, as stated by Zakaria in the article Assisted Suicide Should Be Legal. The laws criminalizing assisted suicide for terminally ill patients and their families are intrusive and unfair. These patients are already dealing with the fact that they are terminally ill and dying. Why should the government make the end of their lives more complicated and painful? Death with dignity bills, such as the one in Oregon, allow mentally capable patients to decide when and how to end their lives, regardless of their physical abilities. Hence, opposing physician-assisted suicide denies those disabled by terminal illness the right to control their deaths, despite the fact that they suffer no mental impairment. Asking a loved one for assistance is exposing them to threat of prosecution and jail time. Barbara Mancini, a 57-year-old nurse in Pennsylvania, was prosecuted for handing her father, John Yorshaw, a lethal dose of morphine. Yorshaw was a home hospice patient in failing health and had repeatedly expressed to family members his wish to die. Mancini was charged with a felony after an autopsy showed that her father died from a morphine overdose. The case was eventually dismissed, but not before costing Mancini her job and more than $100,000 in legal fees. Some opponents feel that physician-assisted suicide is still suicide and is sending the wrong message to mentally ill people. In the article, Why Assisted Suicide Should Not Be Legalized, it states, if society creates a right to suicide and legalizes physician-assisted suicide, the message perceived by a suicide attempter is not likely to be, we respect your wishes, but rather, we don't care if you live or die, your life doesn't matter. Advocates against suicide also claim that adequate technology and medicine are available to effectively control pain. These folks feel that more of an effort should be made to help patients deal with pain, as opposed to just jumping to ending their lives. Let's turn to a solution. A simple solution would be to make assisted suicide legal in all states. Oregon, Vermont, Washington, Montana, and New Mexico are the only 5 states that allow medically assisted suicide. Although lawmakers in Hawaii, Kansas, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania have recently introduced death with dignity bills, with votes in New Jersey and Pennsylvania expected this year. In California, citizens are being asked to support an initiative which is called the Human and Dignified Death Act. This initiative would allow a physician to end the life of a terminally ill patient upon the request of the patient, following properly executed legal documents. Some European countries, including the Netherlands, Belgium, Switzerland, and Luxembourg, have legalized physician-assisted death. On October 15th, the Canadian Supreme Court heard oral arguments on reversing a 2-decade-old precedent which would decriminalize assisted death and even permit physician-assisted suicide, according to Zakaria. As stated by a representative from Quebec, which has already legalized physician-assisted suicide, death is part of life, and assistance in death is not suicide, but should more accurately be described as end-of-life care. Let's sum up. Is denying mentally capable individuals the right to end their lives in a peaceful manner a denial of their individual rights to self-determination and freedom of choice? As medicine becomes more advanced, pulling people away from the edge of death and assisting them with a peaceful ending grows louder and more frequent. Remember that we cannot apply our own definitions of the abstract values of suffering and the existence of life after death on others, including those with differing views. We need to keep in mind that we are all in this world together, and when individuals whose diseases, handicaps, or conditions renders them unable to end their lives in a dignified manner, it should be their wishes which are respected. Thank you.